Okay, so hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Camp Study Abroad Conference. Hope you guys are ready to start. I'm Rheign, again, your host for this session. Thank you for tuning into this session brought to you by LIMS Review Center, the Princeton Review Philippines, ARG Philippines, and AUCC Philippines. So for this talk, we're going to have something about financial aid, which will cover the process of applying for financial aid and how different this is for different schools and countries, as well as help encourage participants to consider applying abroad, even if they perceive some financial roadblocks to be in the way. So for this talk, we're going to have two speakers. First we're going to have Kian Bayno first. Then after that we're going to have Leo Semana. So before we proceed with the talk, let's lay down the house rules. First, please do not spam the Q&A box or send any inappropriate messages. Second, everyone at camp is working very hard to make your conference experience amazing. Please be respectful at all times. And third, all questions must be sent in the Q&A box. Questions in the chat box might get lost in all the messages. So now that we're all familiar with the house rules, I'm excited to introduce our esteemed speakers for this session. Kian, you can turn on your camera, please do. So Kian is an incoming first year at Pitzer College in Claremont, California from Cebu, Philippines, looking to double major in economics and public policy analysis. He graduated from Maria Montessori International School in April 2023, specializing in the accountancy, business, and management, or ABM strand. Seeing early on the disparity in outcomes caused by income inequality, Kian is particularly passionate about engaging Filipino youth in the spheres of politics and entrepreneurship. He has worked on and continues to work with projects such as the Republic of Epsilon, an online global youth-led political simulation community, and managers and accountants with rising visions as eager learners, or Marvel, a school org focused on enabling young Cebuano entrepreneurs to succeed through panels, workshops, business fairs, and seed capital. He is also keenly interested in the field of city planning and urban development and is up for a game of city skylines in any time of the day. So, hello, Kian. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction, Ms. Rheign. Should I get started?
Yeah, I'll share your screen.
Thank you.
Oops, my bad. Wrong screen. Okay, wait. There, can you guys see it? Can you see it?
It's not, I think it's still loading on my end.
It's still loading.
Okay, there. I think that's good. So, hi again, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kian, and as Rheign mentioned, I'm an incoming freshman on a full ride scholarship at Pitzer College, planning on double majoring in economics and public policy analysis. When I applied to schools abroad and in the Philippines, I got accepted to the big three in the Philippines, UP La Salle and Ateneo, one in Canada, the University of British Columbia, and three in the United States, the University of Alabama, the University of South Florida, and the school I'll be attending, Pitzer College. Next slide, please. So before I start my presentation, I'd like to address one of, if not the most common misconceptions about studying abroad. College abroad is too expensive. A lot of people think that studying abroad is entirely out of their reach and that there's no way to study abroad unless you're very wealthy or you have a very wealthy sponsor. So to give you an introduction to my school, Pitzer College, it is a liberal arts college located 30 minutes from downtown Los Angeles. It's ranked number 33 in National Liberal Arts Colleges by the US News Rankings, the most reputable college ranking in the United States. So it's a top 30 school nationally. It's also the #1 producer of Fulbright students in the country. For the past 10 years, Pitzer has been the #1 producer of Fulbright students in the United States. And finally, Pitzer is a part of the Claremont Colleges Consortium, a group of 7 top-ranked higher education institutions focused on the liberal arts. So there are 5 undergraduate colleges: Pomona, Scripps, Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Pitzer, and 2 graduate universities, the Claremont Graduate University and the Keck Graduate Institute. They all share a campus, academic resources, and organizations, with each college having their own field specializations. Next slide, please. So as you saw a while ago, Pitzer College in 2023 had a total cost of attendance of 4.9 million pesos. That's the sticker price to attend Pitzer College without a scholarship. Now, let's take a look at the other schools that I got accepted to, especially here in the Philippines. So at Ateneo, I got accepted with a 50% financial aid scholarship. So that brings the total amount per year down to 120,000 pesos. I also got accepted to LaSalle, which is around 84,000 pesos per trimester with no scholarship. So I would be paying around 252,000 pesos a year. Next slide, please. But at Pitzer, I'm actually only paying 68,000 pesos a year. It's actually cheaper to study at Pitzer for 1 whole year for me than to study at LaSalle or Ateneo for 1 semester. So this is the total breakdown. Above, you can see the total breakdown of the cost of attendance at Pitzer. So it covers tuition and fees, housing and food, and the mandatory medical insurance for all international students. That's a total of 86,934 USD. But after scholarship and grants, I'm actually only paying $1,234 a year, or as you can see, 34,000 per semester and 68,000 pesos a year. How did I do that? Next slide, please. So I'd first like to discuss what exactly financial aid refers to. So financial aid is money that is given or loaned to you to help pay for college. There are 3 main types of financial aid in the United States, which is scholarship or grants, which is gift money, which you don't need to pay back after graduation. Number 2 is student loans, money borrowed from your college, a bank, or state or federal governments. Generally, as an international student, you're only eligible for student loans through your college or through a bank. You are generally not able to access student loan funds from the state or federal government. Thirdly, we have work study. Work study refers to programs ran by your college or the federal government where your earnings go towards paying for college in exchange for you working a job on campus. Next slide, please. So there are 2 main types of financial aid which differ based on how colleges determine how much aid to award and to whom. Firstly, we have merit-based aid. This is awarded on the basis of academic, athletic, artistic, or other achievements. Generally, most scholarships for international students in Canada, Australia, and throughout Asia and Europe tend to be merit-based. This includes a Fulbright scholarship that was available to me as an international student at the University of British Columbia, the International Scholars Program. Secondly, we have need-based aid. This is awarded on the basis of a student and their family's financial capability to pay for college. This type of aid is most commonly found in the United States, and as it is the most complex, I will be focusing mainly on need-based aid. Next slide, please. So for people who have already researched the schools they want to go to, you may have noticed that some schools claim on their websites that they cover full demonstrated need. Basically, this means that they will only expect admitted students to pay an amount that they can afford. Generally, colleges will compile various different sources of funding to provide a financial aid package that meets this commitment. Sometimes this can include student loans. That's why, in addition to claiming to cover full demonstrated need, colleges will also add a no loan guarantee to their financial aid policies, meaning their financial aid packages only contain scholarships or grants and work study allotments. Next slide, please. So there are also terms that you will encounter a lot when researching financial aid. This is need blind and need aware admissions. So need blind admissions is a policy that colleges apply when reviewing applications where they do not consider your capability to pay when reviewing your application. So this refers to how colleges may or may not take into account your family's financial situation. The majority of colleges in the US are need aware for non-US citizen or permanent resident applicants, although I will be discussing that later. There are only 7 schools in the US that are need blind for international applicants. These are the schools that I've listed below. The next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, need-aware admissions is the most common type of admissions policy for international students in the US. Basically, it means the more you can pay, the higher your chances of getting in. But that doesn't mean that you have no chance of getting in if you're from a low-income family. There are lots of ways to get a full ride scholarship or even a partial scholarship that can meet your needs, which we'll be discussing later. Next slide, please. So, how do you find schools that you can afford? There are 4 main tips that I would recommend to help you find the best school that's a fit for you and your financial situation. Firstly, check whether a school is public or private. One of the first things you should do when researching schools is to check whether it is a public school funded by a state government or a private school with its own endowment. Some public universities will give very limited scholarships to students who are not residents of that state, and many will not give any financial aid at all. I've listed a few popular public universities in the United States for international students down here. As you can see, let's take UC Berkeley as an example. For in-state students who are residents of the state of California, they only need to pay $39,878 full price. But most Californians who attend UC Berkeley receive some sort of financial aid either from the state government or the federal government. But as an out-of-state international applicant, you would have to pay $72,452 a year to attend because they do not award any scholarships or financial aid to international applicants who don't live in California. This is a policy that's mirrored by most public institutions in the United States. So you have to make sure that your school awards financial aid to international students. Next slide, please. My second tip is to find out a school's specific international student financial aid policies. Many schools have different financial aid policies for domestic applicants, which are US citizens, permanent residents, refugees, protected persons, and other types as classified by the federal government, and international applicants who don't hold US citizenship. Make sure you're on the right webpage of the Financial Aid Office. For example, these are some popular colleges that international students apply to. Let's take Georgetown in Washington, D.C., for example. Georgetown has a need-blind admissions policy for everyone, which, as I mentioned earlier, means that they don't take an applicant's family's financial capability to pay into consideration when reviewing an application. But they don't meet full need for internationals. This means that even if you do get in, they don't guarantee that they can give you enough of a scholarship to allow you to attend Georgetown. On the other hand, we have Pomona College, which is a member of the Claremont Consortium. Pomona is need aware, which means they consider an international student's financial capability to pay when reviewing their application, but they meet full need for everyone. So if you do get into Pomona, they will guarantee that you will get as much of a scholarship as you need in order to attend. UPenn is also another school with a unique financial aid policy for international students. So they are need aware for all international students, except for Canadian and Mexican citizens. So you might be misguided when reading the UPenn website, thinking that they're need blind for Filipinos, but no, they're not. They're only need blind for specific nationalities. Next slide, please. So another third tip that a lot of international applicants fail to consider is to apply to hidden gem schools. Now, hidden gem schools, there are lots of schools in the US which have amazing resources for international students, including offers of full ride scholarships. Lots of international applicants skip over these schools because they may not be as well known globally, but they're often still excellent top ranked institutions. One big example of this is Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut. A lot of international students who aren't as well versed in US college admissions fail to consider Wesleyan as an option because it's a smaller liberal arts college, but it is still a top ranked school. I think it's a top 10 or a top 20 for liberal arts colleges. And they offer the full ride Freeman Asian Scholarship for citizens of ASEAN, which includes Filipinos. This is in addition to their extremely generous financial aid policy, even for internationals, where they meet full need. So even if you don't get the Freeman Asian Scholarship, you will probably still get a full ride at Wesleyan if you're a low income international. Another school that's great to consider is Berea College in Kentucky. Berea has had a no tuition guarantee for all students, including international students, since 1892. Berea was founded as a primarily African American college. It was the first school in the US to have integrated classes. And in 1892, they received a grant from one of their alumni that allowed them to continue their no tuition guarantee until today. They accept very few international students, but those who are accepted are still able to benefit from the no tuition guarantee, and they still have scholarships available to help fund winter clothes or other supplies you might need in moving to the US. Finally, we have Lawrence University. Lawrence is a top liberal arts college in Wisconsin. It's number one in the state. It offers need-based financial aid to international students. Very few international students, actually very few Americans know about Lawrence, even outside Wisconsin. But a lot of people fail to consider that they still offer full rides. So if you really need a full ride, make sure to look at hidden gem schools that are small, probably tucked away, or have a very specific niche, but still can offer you the resources you need to succeed there. This is just a very small compilation of those schools. There are so many more amazing institutions in the United States and around the world that offer great support and resources to international students. Next slide, please. Finally, my fourth tip is to explore various resources to help build a more balanced school list. There's lots of great information online to help you. Some great resources that I particularly found helpful when I was applying to colleges is firstly, Applying to College and International to USA. These are subreddits on the social media website Reddit. They are great for finding general information, personal narratives and experiences, and asking questions about the college application process. It's filled with people who are just as passionate about college applications as you are, and you can find amazing advice there that can really improve your application. Secondly, I really like Big J Educational Consulting's blog because they provide a comprehensive spreadsheet of statistics on colleges, which are the most and the least generous givers of financial aid to international students. Some colleges, although they claim to meet full need, may still be very stingy, and they generally might not give that much financial aid to admitted international students because each college has their own way of determining what your financial need is. They all have their own formulas. So Big J is a great resource for checking how colleges calculate a student's financial need and how many international students are actually on financial aid at that college. Thirdly, and I cannot recommend this enough, always take a look at a school's common data set or CDS. This is as simple as searching the name of the school plus CDS on Google. And what will pop up is a PDF which lists all the information about how they evaluate applications and statistics about admitted students from previous cycles. There you can get an accurate estimate of their acceptance rate, the general profile of students who are accepted to that school, so what their average SAT score is, what their average ACT score is, and best of all, near the middle of the file, there's a table which tells schools to rank which aspects of an application they prioritize the most. different schools, for example, I know Harvard does not look at financial need because they're need blind. So it will show that on the CDS of Harvard. But another school, which does consider financial need, will show it as very important, extremely important, or moderately important. Like it's a great resource to help you find out which schools are the best for your profile. So next slide, please. That concludes my part of the presentation. Leo will be taking over after me to discuss more aspects of financial aid. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at my email, which I've listed here. And I'll also be sending it in the chat in a few moments. And that picture of the bottom is of my school, which I'm really excited to be attending this August. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Okay, so thank you so much, Kian, for that wonderful talk. Is Leah here already? Wait, is he here? Wait, while waiting for Leah, um, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat. Oh, he's here. Okay, we're just going to promote you as panelist. Okay. So, while Iya is promoting you as panelist, I'd like to introduce our next speaker for this session. Leo is an incoming freshman at New York University this fall 2023 semester with an anticipated double major in biology and chemical and biomolecular engineering pre-med. He applied to the US because he's very interested in the development of research in genetics and public health abroad. In his free time, Leo likes playing the violin, listening to Ice Spice, and reading books. So yeah, everyone, wait, where's the wait? Okay, what's the panel? Hold on. There. Okay, hi Leo. If you can turn on your camera, please do.
Hi guys, hi Rheign.
Hi.
Finally, nice to meet you. Hi Kian.
Hello, you
Ayan,
can take it away.
okay, so I'll start. Let me just share my screen. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be sharing my screen now. Okay. So, is it visible?
Yep.
Okay. Wait a sec. Oh, wait lang. Ayan. So, before I will start, I just like to say thank you to Camp who organized this event and also for inviting me and Kian to this event to talk about some of our experiences during the college application process. So let me start off by introducing myself. Hi guys, I'm Leo. I recently graduated from Philippine Science High School, Central Luzon campus, and I am proud to announce that I am an incoming freshman at New York University on a partial scholarship and with an anticipated major in biology and chemical and biomolecular engineering. So that's a 5-year program. So I was accepted to 5 universities in the United States. All of them are in New York State. 3 of them are in New York City. And the big 4 colleges here in the Philippines. So that's Ateneo, UST, UP Manila, and DLSU. So outside of academics, I like playing the violin and reading books and listening to Ice Spice. So yeah, here we go. So at NYU, I got inspiration from this side from Kian. So it's basically the same thing. About $4.9 million a year. That's the estimated cost of attending NYU. But unlike Kian, I am not on a full scholarship. So I do have to pay some of the tuition. And in comparison to California, New York City is known to be very, very expensive. So I am preparing now to be a broke college student. These are my last 30 days of financial freedom. So NYU is known as a campus without walls. It is in downtown New York. It's in Greenwich Village. It's known for its like global programs and study away opportunities. Actually, NYU has 11 sites all over the world in 6 out of the 7 continents. That's every continent except Antarctica. And it has great research opportunities and as well as cross school minors. So uh so before I continue to NYU, next slide. So I got a College of Arts and Science scholarship, which is $36,000 a year. NYU is known for not being very generous with financial aid. Actually, it's one of those schools that Kian mentioned that are very stingy with giving money to students. Only 50% of NYU students get financial aid. And out of that 50%, only 10% have their needs met. And fortunately, I was one of those students who had their needs met. So $36,000 is quite a hefty sum from NYU. Considering that the financial aid that they give is ranges from like $1,000 to $9,000 per student. So this is a little more than half of my tuition. So NYU, what are some of the other schools I applied to? So here are some of the schools that I applied to where I got in with a scholarship. So Stony Brook University is also a university in New York, and I got a Global Excellence Scholarship. Manhattan College is another school near the city. It's about 10 minutes away from the city center. And I got a President Scholarship and International Trustee Scholarship. And Pace University is another university in the city. It's actually very near NYU. And I got a President Scholarship from there. So in the end, these are all merit-based aid with some need-based mixed in there. So I'm gonna discuss how I did that a little later. Yeah. So why NYU? Why did I decide to eventually commit to NYU despite it being the most expensive out of all of the schools I've been admitted to? So NYU has a big campus, quote unquote. NYU is basically found on Broadway. There are a lot of buildings on Broadway. We don't have a gate, unlike some of the other colleges that are closed off. It's located in the East Coast, so that was a very important determinant for me. I am not a huge fan of warm weather, and personally, I don't think I could survive in California or Florida. So that was a major consideration to where I applied and to which colleges I applied to. And lastly, the opportunities to network in New York City. There are a lot of opportunities in New York City, especially if I am planning to continue my studies into medicine. There are a lot of clinics available in New York City, unlike the smaller liberal arts colleges. So this is just a special consideration for me. And for those of you who are considering to go into pre-med, usually bigger cities have more opportunities for you. But that is not it's not going to be like a, ang tawag dun? Para siyang, kung hindi malaking city, hindi na ako mag-apply. It's just like more of a preference for me then. Ayan. So, the only full ride scholarship for international students, to my knowledge, in NYU is the MLK Scholars Program. So this is the Martin Luther King Scholars Program. And this is more geared towards student activists. But that did not stop me from applying to it because, alam mo yun, like ask for money and you never know where you're going to get it. And this requires another essay in the application. Pero it's another scholarship where it's fully funded, but you really have to be committed to like student activism and mobilizing your community in order to change. So it's not really much of a STEM scholarship. So for those of you who are interested in student activism, this is something you should consider when applying if you want to apply to NYU. There. So today, I'm going to teach you how to ask for money from colleges professionally. So a while ago, Kian taught you how to some of the important terms in colleges. So now I'm going to ask you how to really do it in terms of like asking for money and getting the financial aid you need. So in the United States, there are two ways for you to get financial aid. First is the College Scholarship Service Profile, or the CSS profile. So let's discuss the CSS profile first. Most colleges require you to send in a CSS profile to properly assess your family's financial situation in applying to college. When filling out the CSS profile, you need to be guided by your parents so that you could fill out the information correctly. There aren't any required documents, but here are some I found handy when filling up mine. So we have a certificate of employment and compensation of your parents, an annual income tax return, and bank statements of the whole family, records of savings and mortgage and information, and retirement documents if applicable. So if you noticed, these are some documents that you'll need to also apply for financial aid at the Ateneo de Manila University. So if you're already applying for financial aid in ADMU for college, you'll have most of these documents on hand. So that makes it easier to remember and to have generally. Then, yeah. Some schools will ask, so here are some special cases pala before I move on. So OFW parents or non-custodial parents, so these are the parents that do not live with you. So my dad is an OFW in New York. So he does not live with my mom and I. So he had to fill up a separate CSS profile, which was very hard for him to navigate. But in these cases, you have to push your way through it. And separated and divorced non-custodial parents. So if your parents are not together or they were not married, generally they have to fill out two separate CSS profiles. And there are other circumstances that would make you have to fill up another CSS profile. So the IDoc. So what is the IDoc? Personally, I didn't have to fill out the IDoc, but it's a resource that some schools use whenever they're requesting for additional documents from you. So for example, they want to see your tax returns or some financial documents. So you generally have to submit those through the IDoc. So some schools will ask to verify your documents and is required by some schools, but not all. So a school you've applied to that requires the IDoc will usually prompt you to send these documents by sending you an email. And the next one, aside from the CSS profile, is the ISFAA. Oh my God, hindi ko nasama yata dito. Pero the ISFAA is the International Student Financial Aid Application. So it's similar to the CSS profile, but instead of it being filled out electronically, you'll have to fill that out. You print it out and then you have to fill it out by hand on paper. And generally for the ISFAA, you'll have to submit that through directly to the financial aid office of the university you're applying to. So here are some other ways to save money, or as I like to call it, how to not let college make you even more broke. So I know that ang dami talagang costs that come into like applying college, yung tuition, yung housing, yung food, yung everything, pocket money, and let's not forget all the visa fees you'll have to spend on once you're admitted and going to college already. So here are some general tips that you could use so that you won't lose even more money. So here's the first one. So first is expanding your college list. Kian touched on this a while ago, but I would like to add on it too. So he mentioned liberal arts colleges a while ago, but I did not apply to any liberal arts colleges because as a STEM student, I needed a campus that had more facilities and were generally larger for me. So Pace University, Stony Brook, and Manhattan College had excellent programs in biochemistry, neuroscience, and health science. And they all offered me big scholarships. So that's a factor that I considered in applying to these schools. And I could assure you guys that if I did not get into NYU, I would definitely go to one of these schools. They are very great options to have, especially when you're like me, you're going to pursue something after you graduate undergrad. So for med school, you would have to apply again. So spending less money on your undergrad education is a really big boost, especially if you know that you want to pursue something postgraduate. Yeah, so definitely consider safety schools, because safety schools are not just safety schools. They're literally schools that are very, very good, and you will learn a lot from the schools and these communities. And a tip that I have for like really falling in love with your safety school is to like search for vlogs of kids who are going to that school particularly, and you'll see just how like nice the kids have it there as well. So the next one is the Common App college specific fee waivers. So you could actually ask your guidance counselor to waive the application fees for you. So if you're wondering how some kids apply to 15 to 20 schools without paying for anything, they usually qualify for some of these criteria listed on the screen, or they ask their guidance counselor to check this last box right here, which is given my knowledge of the student's family circumstances and after reviewing the eligibility guidelines, I believe that providing the application fee would present a hardship. So they just need to check that box, and yeah, you're good for that college. So there are some colleges that don't accept this fee waiver. A college that I applied to and didn't get into was UNC, and they made me pay $35 for the application fee. And I know too that the UCs like UC Berkeley, UCLA, they don't accept a they don't give financial aid, but they also don't accept fee waivers from guidance counselors because they have a separate application form altogether if they don't use the Common App. So yeah, for the last one, this is specific to international students, and this usually costs a lot if you don't know about it. And this is the language requirements and the language tests. So some schools, like I know Colgate University, Cornell, and I think Columbia as well. I don't know, I'm not familiar, but for the first two, I'm sure. Cornell and Colgate, they require kids to submit international applicants to submit language tests. So these are usually in the form of the IELTS or the TOEFL. So these are language tests that you can take to prove your proficiency in the English language. So I'm not really familiar, but I heard that the IELTS and the TOEFL cost about 10K here in the Philippines, and that was not a price I was willing to pay. And the SAT already costs so much. So if you could just look at the requirements, you could see that some of the colleges do not require you to submit an IELTS or a TOEFL if your SAT reading and writing combined score is above a certain threshold. So usually that's 650 and above. So if you get a 650 and above in the SATs, they won't require you to send an SAT reading and writing. They won't require you to submit an IELTS and a TOEFL. So another more inexpensive option is the Duolingo English test. So this is a completely online English test that you could use. It's done through your there's a Duolingo site which gives you certification, and now most of the colleges accept it. And yeah, you could totally use that compared to the IELTS and the TOEFL, which costs about $200. The Duolingo English test costs about $50 and a free haunting from a green owl. And lastly, to pay nothing, so if you don't want to use the SAT or the Duolingo English test or the IELTS and the TOEFL, check if your school has the official school languages listed on the website. So for Pisay, CLC, we have both English and Filipino to be the official school languages. So everything is taught in English except for the Filipino subject. So some schools consider that when English is an official subject in your school, they don't require you to submit IELTS and TOEFL anymore. So those are the tips I have for applying to college, and it's gonna be an expensive ride. No, but we could surely lower that cost by knowing some of the tips and tricks, and also generally expanding your college list, working with your guidance counselor to help you lower that cost. So that's it for me, and I'll pass it on to Rheign. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Kian and Dio, for sharing your experience in applying for scholarships and financial aid. So before we officially wrap this session up, we'll open the floor for a Q&A session. Remember to send your questions in the Q&A box and not the chat box. So right now we have two questions. First, from an anonymous attendee, how do students apply full ride scholarships? What is the application process when the universities such as Harvard, Princeton, Amherst College, etc., usually open full ride scholarships? Anyone can go first.
Sorry? Leo, you want to take that question ba?
Hindi ako yung naka-full ride, so
Okay, fair. Okay, I will answer that now. Okay, so how do students apply for full ride scholarships? So as Leo mentioned, most full ride scholarships in the United States at least are you apply to them using the CSS profile. So I know you fill up your financial information with your family, and that's all they need to make a determination of whether or not you will get a full ride scholarship. So the application process is, first you have to submit your application to the school, usually through the Common App or sometimes the Coalition app. After you submit your application, that's when you can submit na din your CSS profile. So for the Common App, it generally opens on August 1 every year. So you can start your application by then. But you can also fill up na naman the other information like your name, stuff like that, educational history. You can fill that up ahead of time so that when it opens on August 1, you're ready na to submit. Then the CSS profile, if I remember correctly, it opens on August 13. August 13? No, August 1. Hindi. October 1, sorry. Yeah, it opens on October 1. So as soon as that opens, you can fill it up, and as long as you've already submitted your application to that school, Harvard, Princeton, Amherst, or kahit saan pa, you will be able na din to submit the CSS profile. And depending on your application round, whether it was early decision, early action, regular decision, you will get your financial aid package around a week or so after your admissions decision generally for most schools. Although for me personally, the financial aid package was given to me at the same time as my acceptance letter. Though for most schools, it comes later na.
Do you have anything to add?
yeah, yung sa akin naman, it's not a full ride, but I did get my uh financial aid offer a little while later. And also to add din sa sinabi ni Kian, sa application process, I've heard of some students negotiating for their financial aid by like pitting schools against each other. So for example, two schools with the similar statistics, one gives higher financial aid than the other. They usually say, "Oy, itong school na to gave me more financial aid than you, but I really want to go to your school. Can you at least match their financial aid or give me more benefits so that I could be encouraged to go to your school instead. So that's a really nice alternative once you like get your results out. And yeah, universities also give you, kaya nga hindi siya like once you get your acceptance letter, you have to confirm agad. There's usually a 1 month waiting time for a lot of schools. So May 1 yung deadline ng most schools. So during that 1 month, that's the month where you could like negotiate for your financial aid offer.
Actually, to add pala to what Leo mentioned about negotiating financial aid offers, around the time when decisions come out, regular decision comes out in March, there's often this pressure on people who are admitted to multiple schools to turn down their other schools right away so that people who were on the wait list are able to get in faster. What Leo mentioned is a great reason to not do that because you can't pit schools against each other. You can't negotiate your financial aid once you've already turned down the other school. So you should turn down schools, as Leo said, on the May 1 deadline now. Because either way, waitlisted students don't get their results until May or June. So you won't be helping anyone by turning down your results early.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What are the deadlines for scholarship and financial aid applications? Are they the same as the admission application deadline?
I'll take this question muna, then I'll pass it on to Kian. So, yeah, generally same yung financial aid application deadline for the schools that I applied to. Pero usually kapag may like other circumstances, as I mentioned a while ago, you could actually email the financial aid offices of the school and explain your reason. Usually, they will be lenient and give you a deadline. Another like an extended deadline, but you have to be sure to submit your requirements by that time. Yeah, so Kian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, actually, what Leah said is pretty much true for most schools. Although for some schools, no, their financial aid deadline is around 1 week or so after the application deadline. But generally, it's better to just submit them at the same time. It's a lot easier than in the end.
Okay, next question. Hi, how to not get scammed po?
So a general
Go.
sige ako. Okay, sige. First, so nung sinasabi namin ni Kian na build your college list, be sure to look out for profit colleges kasi yun yung mga scammy colleges. So there are definitely some out there. So hindi ibig sabihin na low yung mataas yung acceptance rate nila and everything. You really need to research the college din para makita mo na very legit yung ino-offer nilang financial aid for you. So I have this senior sa CLC, si Ate Elia, na she has a full ride scholarship to DePaul University on a computer science major. And ayun, mataas yung acceptance rate, I think, ng DePaul. Pero look, meron pa rin siyang full financial aid there and hindi siya naman nasa scam. And ayun, basta you need to make sure that the college has a good reputation then. And yung program that you want is there. Ayun, Kian.
To add to that then, to make sure that you're going to a reputable college, check what organization accredits that school. Kasi here in the Philippines, our college accreditation is done on a national level. But in the US, it's actually very different. National accreditation organizations are generally considered to not be as reliable. All the top schools in the US are only accredited by regional accrediting organizations. For example, I know NYU is accredited by the Middle States Commission, if I remember correctly, which is responsible for accrediting schools in New York and most states in the Midwest. My school, Pitzer, is accredited by the Western Association of Colleges, which is responsible for most states in the Western US, including California. Make sure to check that the school that the organization that accredits your school is also is a reputable one as well, so that you don't get scammed.
Okay. Next question. Did you have to write any essays to apply for financial aid or scholarships?
No, generally not for me. But wait. Some of the merit-based scholarships, do have essays. So for the MLK program in NYU, you have to fill out another essay. And for Pace University, I also had to build an essay for financial aid. But usually those essays don't require you to dig deep into your financial situation. Since they're merit based, they're more of like, what are your motivations for pursuing this track or being a leader or pursuing this major. So yun yung mga kailangan na essay, but generally not about like explaining your financial situation or anything.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Leo. I never had to fill up any essays for all of the schools that I applied to. Although I know, as Leo mentioned, for merit scholarships, you usually do need to write an essay explaining why you deserve that merit scholarship. You shouldn't go very deep into your financial situation. You should focus more on your achievements. Pero this is uncommon in the US. Generally, most financial aid doesn't need you to write an essay.
Okay. Next question. Is it hard to receive scholarships and financial aid in the US? Can you compare it to other countries if you applied to any of those?
Okay, yan, ikaw muna.
I think generally for the US, it's harder to get admitted to a school than to get financial aid from that school. Because most of the schools I applied to guarantee financial aid for all international applicants. I only applied to very few schools that didn't. So, pero even then, the schools I applied to that didn't guarantee that, they still awarded partial scholarships on partial merit-based scholarships. I think it's very easy to get scholarships in the US, but it is quite hard to get a full ride because generally only very selective schools will give out full rides. Compared to the other countries I applied to, compared to Canada, it's much easier to get a scholarship as an international student in the US. And the Philippines as well. It's also much easier, especially if you are, because I'm just gonna narrate this personal story from when I was filling up the Ateneo financial aid application. They asked me questions like, list how many air conditioners you have at home, list all the countries your immediate family has traveled to in the last 5 years, take a picture of your house, of the front of your house with the house number visible. You don't need any of that for US colleges. So honestly, it's way easier to get scholarships in the US.
Yeah, okay. Adding lang din dun kay Kian. Ako rin, I would like to fuel the fire of the beef I have with Ateneo de Manila University's financial aid. As a batang admo nung grade school, bakit hindi ganito yung financial aid process noon? Like, I know some people who are classmates and good friends then who have received a lot of offers abroad for financial aid. Pero sa Ateneo wala. Like, bakit ayaw nyo magbigay ng pera sa amin? JK, like, let us stay in the country, please. Pero ayun nga. Yeah, so generally mas generous, especially kung merit-based. And also a good tip then when applying for financial aid in the United States. So look at your SAT score. And if you, kunyari yung SAT score mo is like 1490, and look at the median SAT score of the college you're applying to. So kunyari yung median ng college is like 1290 to 1350, tapos yung score mo is like a 1490. Like, sige, sabihin na natin, some people don't consider 1490 to be high, which it is high. So, like, if you apply to that college with that score, they'll see it as a way to boost yung SAT median nila. So that would be an advantage for you, and they're more likely to give you merit-based or complete your needed aid.
To be fair naman to Ateneo, no? The thing is, for many historical reasons, colleges in the United States generally have much higher amounts of funds at their disposal compared to colleges in most other countries, which is why they're able to give such generous offers. So, no hate pa rin to Ateneo. Thank you for the 50% scholarship. Asha, one big fan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my alma
okay.
mater.
Okay, next question. Hello po. May I ask, ano po difference between scholarships and grants? Can international students apply for both?
So I'll take that question. Scholarships and grants are synonymous naman. They both describe parang gift monies that you don't need to pay back to your school. They're the same thing. It's just some scholarships are called grants, some grants are called scholarships. But the like crux of the matter is that it's money that you don't need to pay back. Did I answer the question fully? Can international students apply for both? Yeah, they're the same thing. So yeah, you can. It's up to the school naman how they award that. They might give you both scholarships and grants. They might just give you one or the other. It's the same thing.
Do you have anything to add, Leo? Or... Okay, let's move on to the next question. Is it easier to get financial aid or scholarships for certain majors or same lang po ba para sa lahat?
I think you should take this question, Leo, because NYU is a bigger school with different administration.
Yeah, this is for NYU specifically, but the most people I know have scholarships or partial rights in NYU usually have STEM majors. This is also true like after Momag College, there are more opportunities than sadly for STEM majors to like pursue work in the US. So that's something that you should consider. Like yung Tisch, NYU's very world-renowned music and art school. Doon na-graduate si Lady Gaga and Anne Hathaway and stuff. They usually don't offer financial aid, which adds to the stereotype of like broke college students. And usually yung mga international students na napupunta sa Tisch don't have opportunities to stay in the country after their degree. So ayun, that's something you should take into consideration. I'm not discouraging like applying. You should definitely try to, if that's your passion especially.
To add to that, I know personally off the top of my mind, I know one other school that does have similar financial aid trends, which is Cornell, because each of Cornell's colleges are run by separate administrations. So some of the colleges, I think the College of Agriculture is the most generous with financial aid, while the others don't have as many resources. So personally, for Pitzer, I think it doesn't really matter what major you are. Yeah, it doesn't matter for us what major you are. And I think this is true for most liberal arts colleges because they're just one entity. It's just one school that runs the whole thing. So it doesn't matter what major you are, but the caveat is it's easier to get into a liberal arts college with a less common major. Like, for example, I applied personally as an international political economy major because that's much less common in Pitzer than a normal economics major. So it makes my profile stand out more because colleges need to fill every major. They can't just have all econ majors or all STEM majors. They need to have people fill the less common ones then. So it can help to get a full ride if you apply to a less common major for some schools.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any more time because the next speaker is here already. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can contact either or Kian through the contact info that we're going to provide in the chat box. You guys can put them in the chat box. You're comfortable with it. Like let them know any other ways they can contact you. I'm so sorry we don't have any more time. Okay. So I'll just read the concluding remarks. On behalf of CAM's 2023 facilitation team, I would like to extend our sincerest gratitude and appreciation to you guys for sharing with us your valuable insights for today. We're deeply grateful for your time and effort in preparing this informative talks. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much guys for coming. And yeah, their contact info is there. You can contact them for your questions. I'm so sorry. Thank you guys for coming. Goodbye and see you guys in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rheign.
so
Thank you,
much for the
Cam.
invite.